Going into his third season, Ausar Thompson has already established himself as one of the best wing defenders in the NBA. But on the other end of the floor, his offensive impact has been pretty up and down. On one hand, Thompson has the physical tools to be an elite cutter and play finisher, but on the other hand, his limited outside shooting and shaky decision making has put a cap on how reliable he can be as an offensive weapon. In this video, we're going to look at where Thompson's skill set is at right now and what he needs to add this upcoming season to improve his overall production. Now, to start this video, I really want to hone in on Thompson's first playoff series against the New York Knicks, because this is where I think he really fell back to what his strengths were offensively. First, Thompson is very effective at cutting and roaming off the ball. Because the Pistons typically have another non-shooter on the court, they have to get a little bit creative with their spacing. What they typically like to do is pull Jalen Duren up into a ball screen with Cade, while having Ausar spotting up on the opposite corner. And because Cade is great at getting two on the ball and finding the roller, this typically pulls the weak side defense across, giving Thompson all this room to cut along the baseline. Now, obviously around the basket, Ausar has ridiculous quick twitch athleticism. If he catches with any breathing room in the paint, he's parachuting up for a two-hand flush.
Feed it inside, Thompson.
But off the ball, I also think he has a really good feel of timing his cuts and reading the defense. As soon as he feels his man being pulled across the paint, he instinctually floats to the rim as soon as his teammates are ready to pass. Ausar also does really good work hovering around the dunker spot, and pretty much everything comes back to Cade forcing a breakdown on the ball, putting the defense in a scramble, and creating these easy catch and finishes. And this is where I think Jalen Duren deserves a ton of credit for his improved passing out of the short roll. There's obviously lots of things he still has to get better at, but throughout this series, he was constantly spoon feeding Ausar these routine catch and dunks. Watch him here catch and read Josh Hart having his hands up, so he instinctually drops his bounce pass. But now on this play, it's him and Cade playing this two-man game in the corner. And when Duren catches, he's going to take one dribble to pull Towns up, freeing up the rim for this lob.
Inside, and Thompson finishes in.
And then on top of that improved passing in the Pistons roster, I also think Thompson himself has a good feel of moving and picking his spots. And he makes himself a real threat off the ball, despite being a zero threat from outside the paint. If the defense ignores him, he has no problem just blasting into open space. And because of how athletic he is, the defense really can't afford to ignore him, because he's always going to navigate to the soft parts of the floor for more easy twos. The Knicks here are initially caught in a scramble trying to defend Detroit in transition, but when nobody picks up Ausar on the baseline, that's all the space he needs to take one dribble and teleport to the rim. In the half court, the Pistons also used Ausar a little bit as a screen and roll man, and I would have liked to have specifically seen more of this with Cade, because again, with the ball, he's really good at pulling to and finding the roll man, which then gives Ausar all the space to explode. Brunson on this play initially does a good job of hedging and recovering back to Ausar, but from 10 feet out, he's still in position to just turn and elevate, which draws the foul. And pretty much all those physical tools for Thompson carry over to his play in transition. First, he's great at filling lanes and sprinting ahead. And once he gets ahead of steam, there was pretty much nobody on New York's roster who can meet him at the rim. Jalen Brunson on this play has no chance of stopping this lob without fouling.
From the field, upstairs.
And many of these transition buckets stem from Thompson's defense. At the point of attack, that blend of length, foot speed, and hands allows him to be a nightmare on the ball, leading to these steals and breakaway buckets. And it's also important to note that throughout this series, Ausar also did some good work on the offensive glass, where he could out-athletic New York for second chance points. And having a wing who can be this active on the backboard can be a difference maker in a tight playoff series. And Ausar for stretches was overwhelming for the Knicks wings and guards.
With a left hand, no, tipped home, Thompson.
So that pretty much sums up Thompson's biggest strengths as a scorer. He's great at cutting, play finishing, being active on the offensive glass, plus getting out and running in transition. And that was enough for Thompson to be a double-digit scorer throughout the series. And in games 5 and 6, he actually put up some pretty impressive numbers. But at the same time, I do think there's lots of raw elements in Thompson's game. Obviously, the outside shooting has to get better, but I also think he has a lot of room for improvement as an off-the-dribble creator. To start off with the positives, I do think Ausar does good work when attacking in open space. In transition, if he gets ahead of steam off the dribble, he can just shoot downhill and lift up to the basket. and this typically puts the backpedaling defense out of position, forcing them to foul.
Thompson penetrates.
Look how Thompson is going to float up before he receives the ball, which gives him the momentum to explode through this catch. And just like that, he gets hard on his hip and forces the foul. This is another good move here off the catch, where Ausar again skips up to pick up momentum, and when he feels the defense's stance open up, he's going to hit a wicked spin move back over to his left. When playing downhill, Thompson also has a pretty good feel of using different pickups and strides. His rhythm and timing can be a little bit off sometimes, but these Euros combined with his length and lift is still a handful to deal with. Watch him here in stride take one dribble, and hit this right-left Euro step past Cameron Payne, to then extend up for an easy 2. Now when Thompson has to create offense from a standstill, this is where the holes in his game really start to get exposed. Off the bounce, there really isn't a whole lot of depth to Thompson's game. Everything is either an aggressive straight line drive with an occasional spin move, and that's simply not enough against defenders who can match up with him physically. The Pistons here are going to clear out the entire left side of the floor for him to work with. But look how Mikal Bridges is just going to backpedal and give up ground, and the only thing Thompson has from here is a predictable right-hand drive that gets stonewalled. And obviously going forward, Ausar is going to have to add at least some pull-up shooting. But even if those outside numbers don't drastically get better next year, there's still lots of things Ausar can add to make the game more easy. First, I think him adding a floater to game would take his paint scoring to the next level. Right now, everything for Ausar is him looking to elevate and explode through contact in the paint. And granted, because he's such a gifted athlete, this by itself can't be enough, but against top tier shot blockers or physical playoff defense, he needs to add more depth to his game to consistently generate points. Because he already commands a ton of respect with his rim pressure, it's pretty easy for him to push the defense back and create space for these looks. Look how much space Mitchell Robinson gives up as Thompson attacks below the free throw line. And from this spot, he has plenty of space to pick up and elevate for a 2-foot floater, but he charges right into the shot blocker's airspace. And Thompson could also leverage his physicality to create space for runners. When coming downhill, he's great at bumping the defense off their spot to then pick up and elevate towards the rim. But if he's going up against a more lengthy defender, he could also use this to stop on 2 and shoot up for a runner. I also think Ausar needs to get better at attacking matchups on the block. Because teams typically put their weakest defender on him, he's usually matched up with a much smaller point guard. And again, because of Thompson's physical tools, he can generate some buckets if he catches with good position, but he should be more consistent when playing with his back to the basket. There's times where he gets walled off and pushed out into a tougher jumper, or he gets caught exposing the ball. And then in the same vein, I also think Ausar needs to get better at reading and processing the game. A lot of this could be chalked up to him just mentally overthinking in his first playoff series, but regardless, Ausar is going to have to be a more reliable decision maker going forward. Whether he's playing out in transition or catching on the short roll, him being a more reliable passer will be crucial for the Pistons offense this upcoming year. And the thing is, I do think he already has the foundation to be a really good playmaker. First, out in transition, because the defense is so freaked out about his rim pressure, this creates some pretty easy passing reads out in the open floor. And Thompson could also surprise the defense with some pretty advanced deliveries. Watch him here needle this one-hand shovel pass that perfectly leads Hardaway to the rim. And then in the half court, that downhill scoring has the same effect, where once he puts the ball down, he pretty much always pulls an extra defender, which again opens up these dimes. Watch him here catch take one dribble towards the middle, and that's all it takes to pull Josh Hart across the paint, giving Duran this easy finish in front of the basket. So when playing off the catch, Ausar does great work when attacking with momentum. He has great lift around the basket, plus a good feel for reading quick shifts and finding his open teammates. Now obviously going forward, Ausar is going to have to improve his outside shooting. Again, throughout last year, he was pretty much a zero threat outside the paint. But the thing is, I actually think Thompson has the foundation to be a passable outside shooter. First, in the mid-range, I think Ausar has really good lift and flow into his shot, where that downhill threat makes it easy to push the defense back, creating more airspace for him to elevate. Watch him here push the ball across his frame, then step into an in-rhythm right-left jumper. And also notice how his hand placement on the ball is solid, having a good follow-through, and not much interference with his guide hand. And despite his terrible numbers, Ausar down the road could be an okay 3-point shooter. He has a good base into his shot, brings it up in one smooth motion, and again, good hand placement on the ball. I think going forward with Ausar's shooting, it's going to come down to just two things. Him putting in thousands of reps on the practice court, then just shooting with confidence in games.
Corner bounce to Ausar, this for three, and it's through.
But even if the shooting doesn't develop, I still think Ausar has the ability to be a really good two-way wing. He's already one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. He has the physical tools to be an explosive cutter and attacker off the catch. Plus, he has a good feel of passing and making the right play. I think if Thompson going forward can add more depth to his game off the dribble and be a little more assertive when he has opportunities to attack, that's enough to make him a legit problem even without the outside shooting. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments who the kids should break down next. The kids here.